everyone, welcome back to Me, Myself and Ifa here, and I'm back with another episode of Me, Myself and Music. So today I'm going to be discussing Chloe and Halle's debut album, The Kids Are Alright. I'm just going to talk about the album generally, my favourite bits, what I think maybe could be better, just stuff like that. I feel like albums could either be albums or collection of songs or collection of singles, and this is definitely an album. Like, it's pieced together with transitions, with intros, interludes, and a finale. It's kind of like a book rather than just random pages, and I think that definitely has an effect on the sound. It's like they're trying to tell a story, which I think is really good, especially for a first album. I don't know if it's Chloe or Halle, but she actually produces their songs, and I think that to kind of have that creative control on your first album is definitely something that you should be applauded for. I'm going to go through the album in chronological order just because I think that that's the best way to go through it, because there are kind of mood shifts and transitions and just things that kind of work so well together and add to the fluidity of the album. I'll just play the intro and then kind of just work my way through the album. So,
Hi friend, how are you? What you need? Got you? What's your day been like? Has it been alright? You good? I'm okay, we both real. Wait,
it sets a feel that will continue and kind of change throughout the album. It does create that ambiance you can hear with the, with the voices, with that ooh in the background while she's talking. If you're going to tell a story as an album, it's very, very important for you to kind of set to the story in the intro, and I think they definitely did do that. This is the song The Kids Are Alright, which is the title of the album.
You don't really care about the trends you like to follow. You know what they say, they here today and gone tomorrow. Everything is new cause we about that innovation. Call it how we see it, we are genius generation.
Just little things I love about that song. How they changed the tempo. You don't really care, and then the second was everything is new cause we are about that. The kind of contrast with the sharp beats to the generation. There's like a term in English where you have a series of short sentences and then you have a long sentence. The contrast just the contrast makes it vivid. There's just so many little tricks that they do in this, which I think is just really, really unique. And if you look at them as cover artists, that's how they kind of came up. So Beyonce signed them to Parkwood after finding their cover on YouTube. So they're used to kind of rearranging other people's songs. So now imagine giving them their own song to rearrange, and that freedom, I think that definitely shows. This is the first feature. This is Gold Link.
When my eyes are swollen, when I cry, yeah, like it, yeah. Take the high when I'm coming home. Living in the sky, right on the floor. Have you seen someone like me before? And time and again, I be saying it. I love what I give and all my soul.
Like a soulmate, what your friends think. Pitch the whole thing, girl, it's Gold Link. Loving you is my favorite thing to do. Captivated by the sight and thought of you.
So I love Gold Link, so anytime I hear him, it's very, very rare that I'm not going to like it. I think that they suit really well together in that they kind of, they do have hip-hop influences. Gold Link maybe more so than these girls, but the ability to kind of fuse it with different sounds I think is so cool. Those things together even match what they say in their songs, like, if I'm in the mood, I get as ratchet as I wanna. Turn around and show you I can bless you with some content. Like, they're not one-trick ponies. They can do different things. I think that I really love that. Just briefly touching on the other features, like it's Gold Link, it's Carrie Foe, it's Joey Badass. They're not people who are like so well known. Do you know what I mean? And I think for your debut album to kind of go with the underdog is very brave and very authentic. Now you have the first interlude, Fa La La La, and what I'm saying about it working as an album, the transition into the next song, Fake, is actually amazing. What? Oh my gosh, my phone is on shuffle. That was very sad. Did you? Oh my goodness! Could that? It was delicious. It was yummy.
She was raised right, even when the world is on her shoulders.
These girls are definitely very unique, but I think you can actually hear like influences of Beyonce in there, which I kind of love.
You must be mistaken if you think that she gon' take it.
Wait.
Watch her put away, I go. stop singing this.
I think the feel of this song is actually just a vibe. It has a nostalgic mood, it has a summer vibe, but also spring. That key change was, look at me, I'm still moving and the song is over. Like, I'm sorry. Baby Bird, like, the sound is actually incredibly unique, but what actually struck me was the imagery. So they're talking about a baby bird kind of leaving their mother's nest, but it's just, oh my gosh, it's poetic. You can kind of hear, you can hear birds chirping, that's the word. Birds chirping in the beginning. It's so melodic, like it's, oh my gosh, it's your nest, quest, test, there's claws. Sharpen up those claws, and they're really going into the bird imagery, but this is applicable to birds, ladies, ladybirds. I despise myself. So I feel like there definitely is a shift in the vibe from Warrior. You start off and they set the atmosphere, you know, everything's a bit like mysterious. When the beat starts to get a bit more pop, 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 that's when you kind of, I thought you get the youthful element. Now things are slowing down. So from Baby Bird, there's definitely a shift in mood.
Cause darling, when you smile, it's like the rain dries out. Singing
That is just beautiful, as in it's just their voices, the harmonies is actually amazing. Like that's the thing, they're a duo as well, they actually can sing. This song kind of has like a, I don't know if it's rock, but it has like a I skipped Warrior, but okay, so listen to this.
almost there, overcome my fear. I saved the light in our life.
And then in Baby on a Plane,
Baby, I've been numb too long.
I don't know if that echo was an accident or a mistake, but it just adds to the fluidity of it as an album.
So when the sky falls, we'll play hide and seek again. Let it all
I think it's a great way to conclude the album. It's mellow, it's soft, it's nice. So yeah, that's the end of it. I honestly love it. I think they're so talented, and I think you can literally hear that. And I think as a debut album, you definitely get a good glimpse of what their sound is. They have that kind of heavy sound mixed with something that's a bit more bohemian, a bit more hippie, and then also you've got hip hop and R&B influences in there as well. I think they can fit into so many different genres, and I don't think they should be boxed in. This is an incredibly artistic album. I think it's definitely very brave. It feels really authentic. There's so many heartbeats, and you definitely do feel the album, you feel it, so it's definitely a vibe. I think it's relatable, that sense of youth empowerment, and since that's what they create, you know, well up to them for getting their message across. I give it an 8 to 9 out of 10 now that I've had kind of a month to listen to it, and I think it is very important to not just listen to an album once and just take how you feel as what you feel, because when I first listened to this, towards the end I did kind of get a bit bored, and then later on when I heard those songs play within like my library, my full library, they actually became my favourite songs on the album. What I would change to kind of avoid that feeling, just me personally, I personally don't think the soundtrack songs needed to be on there. Chloe and Halle are on Grownish, and so they did the soundtrack, which is a great soundtrack song, and I don't know if it's because I overplayed it. I also overplayed Warrior from A Wrinkle in Time, so I don't know if it's because when I heard them on the album I was like, oh, you again, do you know what I mean? But I personally didn't think they needed to be in the album, especially when they have created kind of this vibe. Felt like you were kind of maybe jumping a bit out of the album and then coming back in. That's how I felt anyways. I don't think there is a song I don't like on the album, but in saying that, I think some songs are quite similar to others, and so I might not listen to them as much. I think that's just something to note, but it's definitely high quality. It's definitely very unique, and I think that, you know, I'm just gonna applaud them. I think 18 and 20 to kind of be able to have this musical ear, they're only going to grow and to do kind of so much more. So I think that they do deserve a lot of recognition, especially because they're musicians as well. Like, they play instruments, they play, I don't know what this thing is, but you know that thing that you press it and release different sounds. Yeah, that's kind of my take on the album. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a listen if you haven't already. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You already know you got that vibe. See you on the next video.